John Heyman reports that the Mets have now told Pete Alonso, who came back to them in good faith and offered them a 3-year deal with an opt-out after 1 or 2 with opt-outs in the deal. He comes to them after weeks of speculation that they're not interested in a long-term deal. He comes back to them after weeks of talking about, hey, Pete needs to understand that he needs to be a Met. Pete needs to understand the value of playing in one uniform. Pete needs to understand. All right, I understand. Pete comes back and offers them a 3-year deal. And they won't budge off their number. And now they're telling Pete, hey, you better let us know quick if you're going to take our offer you don't like, because we got to pivot. The Mets don't want him. Plain and simple. The Mets don't want him. And it's getting to the point where if I'm Pete, I'd love to be a Met. Right? Pete clearly wants to be a Met. Pete clearly agrees with the Tiki Barbers of the world, with the, pretty much everybody, with David Wright, with Darryl Strawberry, with everyone else who thinks there's value in playing on one team. And he's about to see this thing come to fruition after struggling with this franchise since 2019. And now they were just in the NLCS. They've added Juan Soto. They've got the young David Stearns. They got the young manager. Things are good. They just took over the town, right? I mean, this is about to be the best era of Mets baseball in forever, since the mid-'80s. And he wants to be a part of it. But he also believes in his value and believes what he's done for this team. And I'm sorry, if you were Pete Alonso, if you were a guy who's hit 50 home runs for this team, if you were a guy who's been the face of the franchise for years, if you're a guy who's been an all-star and a home run derby champion, and someone who just hit the biggest home run of the most successful year they've had in forever. If you're the guy who started LFGM, I always get that wrong. LFGM. If you're the guy who's the polar bear, if you're the guy who's ripping off shirts after the walk-off wins, if you're the guy who's been the fans' guy for years, and they offer you a 3 for $90, you don't love it, but you come back and say, all right, I'll do the 3 years, but let's work on the number, and they got nothing for you. And then in one day you hear, oh, we'll go trade for a better first baseman. And by the way, let us know quick, because we got to make a decision. Let us know if you're going to take the money we won't move off on. Let us know if you're going to take the deal we won't budge on. Let us know if you're going to take the deal that we won't negotiate with you on. If I'm Pete Alonso, I'm praying someone. And again, we'll see what the numbers have to be. He's offering just the Mets, right? That's the rumor. Just the Mets are getting this 3-year deal. He's not willing to take a 3-year deal for anybody else. He's still looking for the 5, 6, 7-year contract from the Giants, from the Angels, from whomever. And I understand that there is a market that is not there for Pete right now, as well as Bregman, as well as Santander, as well as many other guys who are still in free agency, and the market isn't there just yet for them, right? It's January 15th. So I understand the Mets have all the leverage. There's no doubt the Mets have all the leverage. But at some point, we could talk that it's best to be in a Met uniform. And, I remember listening to Evan and talking about if bitterness is the reason, if bitterness is why you choose to go play for another organization, you're going to regret it the rest of your life. Bitterness, there's one thing to be stuck on a contract. It's another to come and try and negotiate with them, and they want nothing to do with it. And they're playing, they are showing him zero good faith in this negotiation. They are playing as, what was the quote from Hold the Line? They're holding the line. Hold the line! Ba-na-na-na. Pete isn't worth another dime. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's the Mets song today. So, I understand that Pete doesn't have a market as of just yet, but it's clear to me the Mets might be willing to take him at the number if they get him for it. I think that probably alone is part of the owner's willingness to do something, the team, the organization's willingness to bring back this guy, and the understanding and the promise that at $30 million for 3 with opt-outs, that maybe they could still go get. I would think they still could go get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. next year in free agency. You move Pete to DH, you play Vlad, it costs you, it's a year or 2 of Pete at DH, and then you move on, or more likely even, if it's an opt-out after 1, it's a 1-year contract for Pete Alonso, who might be willing, we talked about this yesterday, where if he opts out, he could get into the market again off of a positive year, maybe a winning year for the Mets, another good postseason for him, even at a year older. If he puts up a good season a year older, but no picks associated with him because you can't have the qualifying offer attached to you twice, maybe he finds his market then, or at least believes there'll be a market for him then. But, I mean, if you just look at everything, they offer him 3 for $90. He doesn't like it. He comes back with a 3-year offer. They don't move off that contract for anything. They show him no good faith. They're not willing to give him anything extra for being Pete Alonso, while the fan base is out there clamoring that Pete should show faith, that Pete should be the guy to come back. And when he does, the Mets have nothing for him. They're holding firm to the line, and now they're out there and putting out rumors that they're looking to trade for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And Pete's just supposed to swallow all of this as the guy who's been the face of the franchise for years, and then just eventually take their number. Oh, and please, Pete, can you do it quick? Because we want to know if we don't have you. Every day, this is getting closer to Pete Alonso not being a Met. Every day. And if I'm Pete, I'm getting to the point where I don't care about the value of being in one uniform, because they clearly don't value him. They value him on a number. That's it. They're being cold-blooded about it, well within their rights. I know many of you are going to call me up and tell you that's how billionaires think, and that's how good businesses operate. And sure, I heard Evan today, he doesn't want his owner meddling. I'm not saying that Steve Cohen should kick in the door and say, hey, enough, Stearns, give him whatever he wants. But on some level, this is the same owner who gave you statues. He's the same owner who brought back the uniforms you love. He's the same owner who gave you Old Timers Day. Bringing Pete back not only helps the fans, it helps you this year win a championship. It helps you compete this season. It gives you the pop, although not the perfect kind of player, but the pop and scary bat that you could use to protect Juan Soto. So I understand not wanting him. I understand preferring Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I've said it before. I think it's a perfectly reasonable take from the organization. And David Stearns to say, hey, look, I have the richest owner in baseball. I'll tell him Vladimir Guerrero's a guy we can't miss on. He's willing to go pay the exorbitant numbers. He's willing to put that 4, that 5 at the beginning of the number that maybe the Toronto Blue Jays or someone else won't be willing to give. I don't need Pete Alonso. So here, Pete, here's what we think you're worth. If you don't want it, don't take it. But please tell us quickly. I don't know. If I'm Pete Alonso, I'm pretty pissed off right now. And if I'm Pete Alonso, I'm maybe not seeing the organization in the same light I did at the end of the year. And while there's no market just yet, we've seen that change rapidly. And once the Mets are out, and if the Mets are putting a deadline on it, maybe you see other teams get involved. Maybe you see other teams who just feel like it's a fait accompli and a thing that's bound to happen. So why bother offering Pete Alonso a big contract? He's clearly willing to take less to go be a Met. He's clearly wanting to be a Met. You know, why am I going to, offer some money that he'll just take back to Steve Cohen and I'll lose out on? But maybe if there is some sort of indication that it's not going to happen with the Mets, you could see the market come back to him a little bit. Or you could see teams right now sensing a little blood in the water, offering something to Pete close to what he's getting now. And you know what? Why not take it? Why does Pete have to be the big guy and do the right thing? But it's funny to me what happened today, because everything that happened today, all the different stories, and again, they're just stories, it's just reporting. We don't know exactly what's going on, but I've been saying it for a while, and when you hear holding the line, when you hear, oh, they're checking in on Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and you hear, oh, you better tell us pretty quickly because we need to pivot. Does that sound like an organization that wants to make a deal happen?